All right, everyone. Hello and welcome back to the Poet Speaks podcast, the #1 spoken word podcast in the world. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. Our next guest is a UK Poetry Slam Champion 2020, former Roundhouse Poetry Slam Champion and author of his debut collection, Blackish. He has worked across England with poetry in a variety of ways, including performing, teaching, and peer mentoring. He was nominated as the editor's choice for Best Spoken Word Performer for the 2018 Saboteur Awards, was a semi-finalist in the 2020 World Cup of Poetry. Based in London, he is a regular on the scene there and is one of the co-hosts of a monthly open mic night, Boomerang Club, as well as the host of Candlewire Theater's open mic nights. My goodness, he's done so much. Please welcome to the podcast, Tyrone Lewis. Tyrone, how are you?
I am good. I forget like how much I've done the intro. It's like, oh crap, I've done a lot. I'm accomplished. Yeah, I can feel that.
Yes, sir. You are very, very accomplished. I always tell people when I read their intro, I'm like, that's your time to really just be like, yo, oh my God, pat self on back. I feel good. I feel great. All that good stuff. It's humble bragging. It's like, I'm doing it for you, right? You gotta worry. I'm doing it for you.
Like, it's the whole thing of like, I think we all have some level of imposter syndrome a lot of the time, but there's also a level of like, no, I've been doing this for, I've been doing this for 16 years now, and a level of like, no, yeah, in 16 years, I've done things. Like, I'm allowed to say that I've done things and things have gone well. So I'm going to put that in the bio all the time. I'm going to say, look, here's what I've done. After 16 years and multiple people saying you're good, maybe it's time to go, you know what? They have a point. I am good.
You're damn good, buddy. You're damn good. So, everyone, we can already tell from that wonderful accent, you are from London, UK. So tell us, the listeners, the UK, tell us what that's like. Where did you grow up specifically in the UK? What part? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I am born and bred in London, in Camden to be specific, because I'm a Northwest London boy. And this has been my whole life growing up here. And like, London has in many ways spoiled me in that there's so much happening and going on in London that, like, when I was 18, I went to uni for 3 years in Bournemouth, which is a nice little seaside town. Wonderful uni, studied television production there and was a good 3 years there. But all the time I was in Bournemouth, it was like, this is a nice town that I will be leaving to go back to London as soon as I can. And like, I've been lucky enough to tour across the UK, and I've been to places like Manchester, Leeds, Edinburgh. They're all lovely, and like, I could see myself living in a lot of them, but London has my heart, and that, like, there's so much London offers, and like, is it the best place for everything? That's debatable for sure. But I think London has so many things going on that you can find your niches and your spaces, whether it is the creative stuff, you can find the right poetry nights or music nights or comedy nights or whatever for you, because London has so much variety, and maybe quality can definitely vary, but there's just so much going on in London that you can find what works for you.
Yeah, London to, I think, a lot of folks is just that, like, I would almost say it's like a New York City. It's a premier city. It's like when you think of the UK, you think of London. So you talked a little bit already about the kind of poetry scene out there. Tell us, so you're born bred London boy. Tell us, what is that poetry scene? What does that look like out there? Spoken word scene. What is that like out in London for the folks that don't know?
I was trying to find it interesting, trying to sum up what the London style is, if anything, and that's in terms of the scene itself. As I've grown and seeing the scene where it is now, we are very much at the stage where there are so many people that want to put on an open mic night, and part of that is London is quite a big and dense city. That there's a level of, oh, we all want to go to a spoken word night, but if one is in Hackney whilst another one is in Peckham, London-wise, that's 2 hours to travel all the way through London and multiple bus changes, train changes, etc. That part of the reason why there's so many poetry nights in London is that means that people can find a poet that's close to them, that's local to them. But also I think people just like it a lot. So there'll be lots of nights being put on, lots of nights that can tailor to different things. There's a whole variety of spoken word nights. You've got things like Mind Over Matter, which happened, I want to say, in Camden and Brixton here. And that has a very hip-hop inspired theme. Has a lot of poets there who also have done some rapping, some making hip-hop music, etc., as well as obviously doing spoken word. And you can see how that influences the poetry. But you've also got a lot of poets that are much more from a page discipline for their, like, and you can see that come up in their spoken word stuff, and depends on the night, but you can find a lot of different things that match your style. There's not necessarily like one style in London, which is, I think, very good.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds like it's a collaboration of so many things kind of coming together. Like you said, that London, you got those hip hop, kind of that hip hop scene mixing in with the spoken word. Now in London, right, or UK, what is it? You all have grime, right? What is grime?
Yes.
Grime is like the grime rap. What is grime?
I am not the authority to explain what grime is, but yeah, grime is definitely like a kind of offshoot of like rap and hip hop, and like it is, yeah, again, it's a little more realistic. I don't know, realistic is the wrong word, but like I guess the grimy nature is a lot more kind of urban realistic to it, and like almost punchier than just full up regular rap. And I'm gonna get fucking called out for how bad my description of grime is by someone, but it is definitely, it's definitely the same family as rap and hip hop. It's just like I guess a more of a UK voice, more of a kind of grit to it in many ways.
Yeah, more of a grit to it. No, I always found that very fascinating, what the UK has going on out there. So for you, where did it kind of start for you? Seeing just all the success you've had, where did the poetry start for you? When did you find out, hey, this is what I would like to do? You know, this is where I want to be a performer. I want to be a spoken word performer. How'd you figure that out? Where did it start for you?
It started when I was 13. My mum, during summer when I was 13, because she works full time and it was single mum and just me, there's always a level of, we need to get Tyrone something to do during the summers so that he can be out of the house while she is out working. It was youth clubs at the start, and then it was, let's try and find some workshops and other things to do other than just general youth club. So when I was 13, we've got the Roundhouse, which is a 15-minute walk from us or so, which is a creative hub center, whatever you want to call it. It does music gigs and other stuff. And like for the summer, they were doing summer workshops, and there was a video editing workshop there. And I've got my media background. I'd already started to get into media at that stage. And mum was like, cool, this summer, you're going to do a week-long course doing video editing or something to get you out of the house and keep you around people and stuff. But the Roundhouse at the time had a habit of overbooking a lot of their courses. So when I got to this video editing course, they'd overbooked it. There were too many people for it. And they're like, well, you actually can't have you on this course despite the fact that you signed up for it. But they had a whole host of other courses, from like radio presenting to circus acts to journalism to poetry and other things. And it's like, I liked creative writing. It was a thing I enjoyed doing in school. So it's like, cool, I'll do the poetry one, because why not? And I went into this poetry class hosted by the great and wonderful Jacob Sam LaRose, and I just fell in love with it instantly. And it was like, oh crap, this actually works. I mean, I'm enjoying this. And then also the validation of like, no, apparently I'm just really good at it. And then I kept doing it, and like throughout my secondary school years, secondary and sixth form years, which would have been from 13 to 18, it was very much this is the fun thing. And I had the structures of workshops and whatever to keep it in place. Then went to university, focused more on university stuff, and poetry definitely took a bit of a pause then. When I came back from university when I was 21, it was when it properly full on went into overdrive, because that's when I started to properly get into like the open mic scene and the slam scene, and was like, oh, there's a lot of cool people here. And like part of it was, this is really fun, and seeing so many people doing it was incredible, but also the real human side of it was also a level of, I just got back from uni, I was no longer in formal education, so there's always a thing of like, where, like, I always had the worry of like, how am I going to meet new people and stuff, and poetry was like, I'm going to these spaces where I keep meeting new interesting people who are really creative, saying wonderful things. So that was the whole thing of like, one, I'm good at this and they're giving me validation, but also they're really cool people, let's hang out and keep hanging out all the time.
No, word. That's such a I think so many people come into it in so many different ways, and for you to kind of, you found community in it, truly.
Yeah.
Like, you found so many people doing the same thing that you love doing, and you found you're really good at it, and you're like, hey, let's all hang out some more. So shoot, let's go open mics, all that good stuff. I'm curious then, and obviously poetry has that such community aspect, like you touched on. For you, what became, like you said, you immediately kind of just found out you were good at it. And obviously now, you compete in the semi-finalist 2020 World Cup of Poetry, all these great things. For you, did you ever have that kind of hesitation though, coming on stage, performing your stuff? That is such a courageous act. Anyone that does spoken word or performance poetry, coming on stage, did you ever get that stage fright? Like, oh my God, yo, I'm really like, I'm telling so many people, revealing myself, revealing a story. Did you ever have that like hesitation or stage fright?
So I think there were two things to that for me. I think the first one and the major one is because I started doing it when I was 13. I had like obviously those first like 5 or 6 years doing it like in workshops and those kind of communities. I think especially starting when I was 13, the way I describe it as, I was too young to get nervous and all of that. Like I think when we're like in our teen years and we're 13, like, obviously we can be very anxious people at the best of times, but also I think there was definitely some level of a teenager that's like, I'll do all the things, I'm up for everything and let's give everything a go, and you've still got a little bit of that energy with you when you're a teenager. And I think because that's what I started poetry with, it became something I got used to before I then got really, I think I got more anxious as I was going to like secondary school, I was going to like sixth form in university, but like, so I was anxious about like going for drinks with people, all that kind of stuff, but poetry was a place I felt comfortable. So it was always just something I was just used to it and fine with it, so that never came into me in that sense. But also I think a lot of spoken word that I am aware of, at least, I'm not saying all of it, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but a lot of spoken word that I'm aware of deals with trauma a lot of the time, and people use poetry a lot of the time to talk about the traumas in their life and talk about really deeply personal things. And it's not that I don't talk about personal things, but when people are talking about the loss of their parents or their struggles with sexuality or gender or abuses they've suffered and gone through in their life, I'm aware of my privilege and fortune in that I've not really suffered that in that sense. And because I'm not talking about that kind of stuff, I don't have to worry of like, I'm bearing so much of myself on stage. And again, not that I'm not putting myself in my poems, not talking about anything revealing, but there was a difference, to me at least, of here is a poem about, here's my life as a Black man versus here is my life as a queer Black woman who has been beat up for it and is regularly abused on the street for it. And it's like, that feels like a different level of confidence to overcome doing that. And I can understand, there was more nerves associated with that, I'd say, and not as a bad thing, just that is the nature of the beast and nature of the stories you're telling, that I don't necessarily have to get nervous when I'm saying my stuff. And like, I think it obviously, because some of my stuff will tend to lean to the humorous every now and then, nervous might come in when people don't laugh at the jokes, but that's about it.
Oh, very, very fascinating. So like you say for you don't necessarily lean into like any type of maybe trauma work. Yours is more so on the lighthearted side. I'm curious for you then, where do you find your inspiration for your writing then? How do you come up with your writing then?
A lot of my influences, I would say, are, I mean, the simple answer is things around me and things that affect my life. So always taking the idea that like the best things to write about things that you know. Obviously, people can make stuff up and elaborate on stuff, but ultimately the best base of stuff is writing about what you know. So I write about my experience of the world. But with that, I'm a media guy. I love films, I love TV, I love comic books. I love that. I love those forms of storytelling, and I will definitely get a lot of influences from that and relating one to the other, combining them as well. And even with that, it means that, and it's not that I don't write about more serious stuff, because I do write about race identity, but even then when I do tackle those subjects, because I often have a media lens going through a lot of my things, I can relate it to some media stuff, which I don't want to say softens the blow as such, but it does add a different perspective to it. Like with the book is called Blackish, which is a TV reference to the TV show. I haven't watched a TV show, but the idea of like I'm making the media reference, and like in the book I've got poems that relate to blackness but also reference Sherlock Holmes and his stories, etc. And the idea of, we can talk about a serious subject, but I'm going to give it to you in here, let me put it in this term, so it's more arguably a different level of entertaining and a different level of, okay, now I see what you're saying. You're using media as a kind of conduit to get my point across.
That's so fascinating, like you said, with the Sherlock Holmes reference. I'm curious for you, what started, what's kind of led you to that trail of thinking where you kind of, I almost put it like you feed people the medicine, but it's like in a funny package, right? People feed people the medicine in whatever type of package that they want to people to correlate, to understand what it is that they're trying to come across, the message. For you, why is it comedy? You know what I mean? Why is it these kind of popular references to really feed people the medicine through your poetry? Why do you choose that lane more than anything?
So because I love my TV shows and films, it was more like the more I was writing poetry, the more I was trying to, if you will, find my voice. I was very aware, like, again, I like TV shows, I like films, and it's like there was no point shying away from it in my poetry. That just felt like, no, again, I like TV shows, I can reference the TV shows I liked. That was definitely just kind of, as I was growing up, the confidence in that. Also, and this is not slight tangent from this, but also I was recently, I've been talking to a friend of mine, Dr. Katie Ailes, who is an American poet based in Scotland. She's just did a PhD on spoken word, and we have a lot of conversations both about stupid stuff but also about poetry. And we were talking about the use of like references in literature and how pop culture references are seen in poetry. And I think pop culture references can occasionally get a bad rap of being like low form, etc., and we don't touch them as much. And it's like, no, screw it. Like, so much of what we of our culture is based on the things around us, and TV and films are a very prevalent thing around us, and especially when we're talking to an audience that might not be poetry focused, they probably watch TV shows and films. So if you mention, like, I've got a poem called Mum Poem, I know that whenever I do the poem, I've got a Drag Race reference in it, and lots of people I know watch Drag Race, and they're like, oh my god, it's Drag Race, and there's a reference there that they can understand and latch onto. So there's a level, for me at least, of like, the audience watch TV shows. If I'm putting a TV show in my poem, it's like, I understand that. So that's definitely always been
facts,
a part of it. But like, also with the comedy side of it, I guess it's also, I think one of the things I kind of had decided on in an early age, if I can call it decided on, was that in looking at the other poets around me and going to open mic nights and hearing what people were saying, there was definitely, I clocked on very early to the fact that so much of the poetry, whilst incredible, often had a more serious tone in nature. And it was level of like, well, I want to be different, I want to stand out, therefore I'm going to not do a serious tone to balance it out and give people the highs and lows. So if someone does a serious poem, I can go up next and do a funny poem, and that will mean I will be different from the person that just went up. And I think that was definitely a part of it, at least from the start. And then since then, it's been to the level of, I don't want to keep writing the same tone and theme for all of my stuff. I want to have some variety. So having some of the comedy poems, some of the more light-hearted poems, because on the scene they seem to be of a rarer stock.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I do think, yeah, even looking at some of your the aesthetics for your work, like you use the cartoon usage for like Tyrone Lewis, all those things are so yeah, it's a different stock. Like you said, it's something completely different to kind of draw them into poetry in a different way, you know, whether it be popular references or maybe even with yourself as like the cartoon is definitely something you know, a lot of poets definitely do. There is like a niche, right? You know, a lot of people kind of want a poet to be in a niche, you know, but people don't realize, you know, poetry is so free, you know what I mean? So many different people interpret it so many different ways, and like different people will be drawn into different things as they listen to different poets. So I appreciate and love what you're doing. So let's talk about your work, Blackish. That is your debut poetry book, am I correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes, so it's your debut poetry book. Like you made the reference, it's Blackish, referring to the TV show, you being a Black man in London. What inspired that work? When did that work come out? And tell me a little bit about, like I said, the name.
So the work came out in 2019. It was published by Burning Eye Books. Burning Eye Books is run and organized by a couple of poets based out in Bristol, Bridget and Clive. They are wonderful human beings. I love them dearly. And Burning Eye's whole ethos is that they want to and actively only publish spoken word poets. They are very much on the idea of spoken word poets' work can also work in the written form as well. They are very good writers. So, yeah, the ethos is that spoken word poets are good writers, as evidenced by their skill in performing. That they're using good writing here that can work on the page. So they want to publish poets that do that. And they'd known of me for a while, and thankfully, thanks to a competition called Unislam, I came into a bit closer contact with Bridget. Bridget saw me there, and we went in contact with them, and they asked me, can I submit a manuscript to them, because they'd be definitely interested in publishing me. And at the time, I hadn't been working on a manuscript. I'd just been writing poetry for a while, but hadn't figured out on putting a manuscript together. So that definitely pushed me into making the manuscript. And with that, working on the manuscript then was like, okay, let's just try and figure out what do I want to put out into the world, looking over my poetry and like trying to make it not just Tyrone's greatest hits, and actually like, let's put together an actual book of poetry how I want to present myself to the world. And it was looking at like common themes, and ultimately the main common theme I kind of latched onto was the idea of identity and what makes you. And so like there's arguably different sections in the book where like the first part is just generally about representation as such, but then we go into things like does family make you? How much does your family have an impact on your identity? How much does your childhood have an impact on your identity? How much does your relationship have an impact on your identity? How much does your race have an impact on your identity, etc.? Just looking at the things that change or affect who you are. And then with that as well, one of the things, especially when I was putting the book together and like titles for poems and all that kind of stuff, I'd been experimenting with it for a bit, but what I pretty much definitely cemented when I was doing the book was that titles both do mean a lot and also don't mean a lot. They are good for categorizing stuff, and if you want to, they can really enhance the poem, but also some people don't use titles in that way. It's just they use the first line of the poem. So people have a different relationship with titles. So for me, I just decided for a fun way of keeping them all uniformed, pretty much most of my titles were going to be some level of a TV show or film reference.
Interesting. Okay. Literally, so every title in the book was a film reference or TV reference.
Like 95% of them are like a TV or film, like not, it's like they're a reference of some kind, mainly to TV and film shows. Some of them are referencing other poems, but there was always some level of film reference. And some of them are as simple as just one of them is called Sherlock. It's referencing Sherlock Holmes. Similarly, Blackish is referencing Blackish. There's another poem that's called Lie to Me, which is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode title. So I was taking a quote from that. Another one is called Basket Case, because it's one referencing Green Day's song Basket Case, but two, the poem deals with basketball and thus the reference to baskets, etc. But like there's always some level of a reference to it, and like the reference doesn't necessarily define the poem as such, but it was just a fun thing for me to do to kind of categorize the poems.
Absolutely not. I think that sounds like a hell of a book, because it's I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, when you're making a poetry collection, whether it be your debut, your fifth, your sixth book, there does need to be that organization there. You know what I mean? It's not just you putting poems on a paper, but it's you telling a story with the organized titles, all that good stuff. So that almost like leads to some kind of map, you know what I mean, with a theme with your book. So tell me a little bit about the reception of that book. I know you went on tour with that, right? You were able to tour throughout, having book signings, all that good stuff, poetry readings. What was the reception like for Blackish?
I am still overwhelmed by it. Like, especially because Burning Eye Books are an independent publisher. There was like, again, with their ethos of publishing spoken word poets, part of that also is the idea that spoken word poets gig a fair amount and all of that. So with that, the idea of if you have the book, you also have merch to sell at your gigs. That was always a factor in why they have that, and it's just a lovely idea to have. So I've been able to do that, and like, I think part of the like people have loved the book, and people have been. I keep selling the book, and like it's been 3 years now, and I'm still selling the book. Like there are still people that want to buy the book. There are still people booking me to do gigs based off of that, and especially coming out as we are coming out to a different stage of the pandemic. I don't want to. I mean, coming out of the pandemic, different stage of the pandemic. That's going into semantics and stuff. But as we're in a different stage of the pandemic, and our gigs are coming up again, there are still people that are booking me off of the strength of the name I have made in poetry and the book and all of that. So it's still, there's definitely people like the book, and like when like I saw it in local bookshops around here. It's not just local bookshops around here. I saw it in bookshops literally across the UK, which was a surprise and a half to me. And like, I know that Burning Eye have connections with like Waterstones, which is one of the UK's largest book chains, because like, but it doesn't mean like Burning Eye publish what, let's say over 100 poets that have published over 100 poets at this stage. Maybe 10 or 15 or so I have noticed in a Waterstones. So it's not like if you get published by Burning Eye, you're guaranteed to be in a Waterstones or anything. But my book was. And like whenever I was going on tour or going on a holiday around the UK, like I would go to Scotland and Edinburgh, and my book was just in the bookshop there. It's like, this is literally over 100 miles away from my house, and I'm just going to a casual bookshop here. They don't know me here, but my book is in this store. And like, I don't give a crap if people aren't buying the book. The fact that it's made it into the bookshop, it's like, okay, no, that was definitely like, okay, it's almost hard to have an imposter syndrome after that kind of thing. I will still attempt to have an imposter syndrome, but it's hard to have imposter syndrome after you've seen your book literally across the whole UK and people still keep buying it.
Well, I'm gonna give you even more imposter syndrome right now. My friend, he's the one that actually put me onto your stuff. You won't believe where he lives. He lives in Nepal. And he knew he knew all about your stuff and knew about Blackish and everything. I believe he got the book too. So yeah, your words have traveled far, far, far across the seas and oceans and stuff like that. But you know what? I think I want like a little gig moment. Just be completely honest. What is that like, seeing your stuff just in bookstores? Like, you went into a little bit, but like, what do you feel? Do you feel like a firework exploding in your chest? I mean, like, yo, it's amazing. Your stuff is in bookstores all across the world. How'd that feel when you first saw it?
So when I first saw it, it was definitely the most special one. Like, there was I have lived a lucky life, and I think, and that's not to say I don't have any talent or anything like that. I'm not saying I haven't worked for stuff, but there's also been like, I will acknowledge a lot of things that fell in my favor, worked in my favor. Yes, I've had to put in the work to stay there, but lots of things have fell in my favor a lot of the time. I remember like when the book came out, I had a friend of mine message me, said they saw it in their local bookstore. So I was like, oh, and I was like, because like Burning Eye don't tell me if my book's in the store, I'd have to look then and find out. So my friend said it was in the bookstore. It's like, oh crap, it's in the bookstore. Let's go see if I can see it at my local one. So literally, on the day my book was published, I went to the local bookstore in Camden, which is the bookstore I've been going to for over 15 years. Well, yeah, over 20 years at that stage now. Go look in the poetry section, and I'm looking like on the shelves, and they've got all in alphabetical order. So I'm looking at it's like called Lewis, and I get to like the L section of this poetry thing, and it's like my book wasn't there. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know what, fine. Like possibly trying to be too vain to think my book would be there and stuff. Mm-hmm. I turn it around, and Waterstones have, they've got lots of tables that will have like special displays of, and here are like the highlight books or whatever and stuff. Yeah. So I turn around, and on the table they've got a Gil Scott Heron book, because we love a good Gil Scott, and next to Gil Scott Heron was my book, and on that display table, and it's this whole thing of like, oh damn, like my book is there, and it's like, oh okay, that's a like that. I joke about the fact that I can be a vain son of a bitch a lot of the time, and it was a whole thing of like, well, this is just inflating my ego far too much now. Like I'm feeling myself way too much in this moment, and like you should not be big. Like again, not that you shouldn't be bigging me up that much, kind of thing, but a level of like, I'm not going to be like coming down to earth properly for a while now. You're gonna be putting my book on display next to Gil Scott Heron in like inner Waterstones. Like I went, and then from there we're going to a couple other places, and like the Tottenham Court Road Waterstones also had it there. My team leader at work, he messaged his partner's family because they were up in Inverness, and we just joked like, fuck it, if you're up in Inverness whilst you're there, go look in the Inverness Waterstone, see if it's there. And it was there. And this whole thing like, my book is across the UK, damn it. Like my book is in bookshops across the UK. I am feeling myself. It's like, never, no, I've made it. I'm good. I'm incredible. Here we go. Give me my flowers. Give me my praise and all of that.
Ooh, get the towel. Get the fans out. He feeling himself. No, that is such a, yeah. I think when you see like your stuff like out there like that, it's a really, I mean, it's an amazing feeling. It's like I was compared to someone hearing their song on the radio for the first time. I mean, it's like, whoa, I really did that. I really made it, you know? So congratulations with everything with Blackish, and wishing you much more success. This has been such a great interview so far, Tyrone. I mean, really just hearing about all your, your career thus far, where you've been at, why you're writing. Now, I'm curious, what do you think people can take away from spoken word and poetry?
Oh, big one. So I would definitely say one of the things that I have taken away from it most, and I think is arguably the easiest thing to take away from it, is the community aspect. There are that many poets, and there are that many poets that want to be a part of the community. Absolutely. I'm still meeting people nowadays. Like there's a new poet I've met, Bethany Down. I met them in November or October last year, I can't remember exactly, but like end of last year I met them, and I was like, cool, you're a good person, let's just bring you into my community straight away. And like I've been doing it for 16 years, and I'm still meeting more people. I was like, no, cool, you're cool, come, let's be friends, let's have you in the fold here. So there's definitely a community aspect of it for sure. Beyond that, I think it is just I mean, first and foremost, I know people can talk about the stories they tell and how important it is to share these stories, inform people, get your stories heard, and I think that is a very, very valid thing, but not to take anything away from that. But I think especially because you're doing it to audiences, entertainment, poetry is entertaining. They are fun nights to go to, and poetry is really good to listen to, whether it is the more serious stuff or the more comical stuff or everything in between. It's a form of entertainment that I don't think people are as aware of. So I think people can it's a good night out, and it might not be your first love. You might prefer a full-on stand-up comedy night. You might prefer a music night, etc. There are gigs, there are drag nights, there are magic nights, there are cabaret, there's burlesque, etc. Like, you can find your different level of creative thing that's the perfect for you. But at the very least, I would say should start looking at adding spoken word to that conversation as a viable alternative of a thing to look at, of like, this can be a good night out, and sometimes that's all you need is a good night out.
Absolutely. No, I like that a lot. I think, yeah, I completely agree with you in the sense that spoken word poetry, that is such a fun night out. I mean, just listening to people ultimately just telling their stories on stage, funny, sad, ugly, cute, pretty, beautiful, weird, that's kind of like harkening back to what you said. Spoken word and poetry is such community. It is, like the amount of people that I've met through, being a spoken word artist, doing poetry. Yeah, it's like a tribe, you know what I mean? It's like you just bring people each day into your tribe, you know what I mean? One by one. It's really an amazing kind of thing, because it's one of those things, everyone has something to say. No matter who you are, everyone has something to say and they want to say it. And that's kind of the power of spoken word. So as we are wrapping up, I have one final question for you. This is the question we ask everyone on the Poet Speaks podcast. Tyrone, why do you need to get your words out?
Always the fun one to answer me, in that I don't think I need to. I like to, it's fun to, I don't need to. I like it as a fun hobby. It's an enjoyable hobby, and I'm a vain person. I like the attention. I like sharing my work. I like making those connections, but I don't need to do this. What I'm definitely falling into, partly of late, but what I think I've always been doing part, is that I am a photographer and videographer as well. I'm also a video editor, and like, I like adding media to stuff, and like, I've been trying to work on documenting the scene more, because I think it's a really good scene that needs to be documented. Music is documented more, comedy is documented more. We should have more documentation of poetry. So I like doing that. And also I've been fairly successful in poetry, that I'm comfortable now in where I am in the poetry hierarchy, pecking order, whatever you want to call it, and stuff, that I'm good. And I'm seeing so many people that for them it is a need. They need to get their words out. This is the thing that fulfills their life, makes their life have purpose, gives them the validation they need to keep going, etc. And there's a level of, I'm doing this for fun. You need it, therefore I will happily lift you up, push you, help you. And like, I love doing that. I'm settled, I'm fine, I've got my full-time job, I've got nice family life, I've got friends, I've been successful, etc. I'm good. I am very much in the pay it forward category of, I'm good, let's help you, let's do you. And so it's not that my words need to be heard, it's that other people's words, you can tell they need their stuff out there. I'm in a position where, again, I can't guarantee people anything, but I can help them. So I will help the other people that need to, whilst I'm good. And obviously, if people ask me to do gigs and stuff, I'm not going to say no. I'm vain, I like performing, it's still fun to do, but I don't feel the need. So when I can help others, when there's an opportunity to help others, I will try to take that and get other people who need to share their words to share their words.
Absolutely. Tyrone Lewis, everyone. All right, if you need some help, hit him up. Hit him up. Himself. Hit him up if you need some help. But all right, Tyrone, thank you. Such a thoughtful answer. So tell us, as we're wrapping up, what's 2022 looking like and beyond for you, as well as where can we find all your stuff? Where can we buy your book? What's that looking like? What's the scene for you?
So 2022, I believe, especially by the time this is out, I will be officially confirmed as an associate artist for the Albany Theatre, based out in Deptford over here, which basically means by 2022 we'll be working with them to develop some projects and also develop my art as such. And what I am working on is developing more video media focused art, documenting the scene more. So keep an eye out for Process Productions, which is my media handle. I'm putting out a lot of content on there, both of myself, but of other people, and with conversations about poetry, poets performing, other things like that. So definitely keep an eye on that. That's what I'm working on this year. Other than that, in terms of finding me, I am Tyrone Lewis. I'm Tyrone Lewis 22 on Instagram and Twitter, Tyrone Lewis Spoken Word on Facebook. And as many a Hinge date and other online dates has told me, I am very easy to Google. If you Google Tyrone Lewis poet, you can probably find me. They have done that many a time. They know my poetry before I've had a drink with them. It's weird, but it's fine.
Word. All right, everyone. Well, you heard him here first. Google him. It's very simple. All right. And everyone, Tyrone, all his links will be down below. Look out for all his stuff in the YouTube section of this video, in this podcast, in the YouTube section, in the YouTube video. Everyone, please look at Tyrone's links and everything. Please go check out all this great stuff he's doing. Go buy Blackish. All right. So Tyrone, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Please do like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, share this amazing podcast with your friends. Like I said, the #1 spoken word podcast in the world. Come on. All right, everyone. This is the Poet Speaks podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.